I found my wife's secret $250, $0 inheritance hidden in her cousin's name, only for my sister to reveal she's been secretly negotiating to buy out her share. Now I'm headed to court over who truly owns the family estate. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here telling a story about betrayal like this, but here I am. It all started with what seemed like a normal day, but then I stumbled across something that flipped my world upside down, something I could never have imagined would happen so suddenly. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when I decided to check our finances, just a routine thing. I've always been cautious about money, especially with how much my wife, Lisa, insists she's not interested in material things. Yet she always manages to spend more than she earns. Anyway, I was going through our bank statements, and that's when I noticed it. An unfamiliar transfer of $250, $0. At first, I thought maybe it was some kind of mistake, but then I looked closer. The money was deposited into an account under her cousin's name. Been her best friend since college, and I'd always trusted her, but now I wondered, why would Lisa hide such a huge inheritance and why in her cousin's name? I knew Lisa had inherited some money from her grandmother a while back, but she'd always told me she kept it in a safe, separate account. I felt my stomach tighten. I started digging deeper, pulling up bank records, and that's when I saw something even more shocking. The inheritance wasn't just sitting in an account. It had been transferred around, hidden behind various shell companies and trust accounts. It was clear she'd gone to some lengths to keep it secret. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't just a little lie or a mistake. This was a full-on deception. My mind raced. Why would she hide this money? What was she planning? Was it just about protecting her assets, or was there something more? As I sat there staring at the screen, I remembered all the little things that didn't add up. Her sudden trips out of town, her dismissive attitude when I asked about her cousin, the way she'd always change the subject when I brought up her family. Then, it hit me like a truck. Maybe it wasn't just about the money. Maybe she's been hiding something else entirely. I started to piece together the signs I'd missed, her late nights, her secretive phone calls, the way she'd always look uncomfortable when I mentioned money or family. I felt betrayed, angry, and confused all at once. How could she lie about something so huge? I thought I knew her, but now I wasn't so sure. I needed to confront her, but I didn't want to do it without evidence. I decided I'd wait until tonight when she'd be home. But inside, I knew I couldn't wait long. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust, betrayal, and the fact that I had no idea who she really was. I felt like I was living in some nightmare, and I had no idea how I was going to wake up from it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, replaying every moment I'd spent with Lisa, trying to find some sign I'd missed. But honestly, I was also trying to prepare myself for the worst. I knew that when she got home, I'd have to confront her. I just didn't know how she'd react, or what I'd say if she everything. When she finally walked through the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor, she looked perfect, like she hadn't a care in the world. She smiled that fake, overly charming smile she always uses when she's hiding something. I kept my cool, but inside I was boiling. I decided I wouldn't jump to accusations right away. I wanted her to slip up, to give herself away. We sat down for dinner and I started casually. "Lisa, I found something today that I need to talk to you about." Her eyes flickered for just a second, but she quickly masked it with a smirk. "What's up?" she asked, playing innocent. I hesitated, then went straight to the point. "I saw the bank statement, the transfer of $250, $0, it's in its name. Care to explain?" Her smile froze for a moment and then she laughed nervously. "Oh, that, it's nothing, just some family stuff. You know how our families are, they like to keep things private." Her voice was light, but her hands trembled slightly. I pressed, "Private? Lisa, that's a lot of money. Why hide it, and why's name?" She shrugged, trying to brush it off. "It's complicated. I didn't think it was any of your business. You know I've always been cautious about money. I didn't want you to worry." That lie didn't sit right. I could see she was trying to spin it, but I wasn't buying it. I looked her straight in the eyes. "Lisa, I know you've been lying about the inheritance, about everything. Why hide it from me? We're supposed to be partners." Her face went red, but she quickly recovered. "You're overreacting. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never cheated on you. This is just a misunderstanding. Her words felt hollow, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. Inside, I was furious. I'd caught her in a lie, and I knew there was more. The way she avoided eye contact, her shift in tone, everything pointed to her hiding something bigger. I felt a mixture of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. How could she lie to me about something so big? About her family, her money. I had trusted her, and now I wondered if I'd been blind all along. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what this meant for us. Was she cheating? Was she hiding more secrets? Or was she just plain greedy? I didn't know anymore. All I knew was that I was no longer sure who she really was. The woman I married, the woman I loved, she was suddenly a stranger, and I was left sitting there feeling like I'd been played for a fool. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I couldn't focus at work, kept checking our bank accounts, trying to piece together her motives. Every time I saw her, she'd put on that fake smile, acting like everything was fine, but I knew better. I saw her flinch when I mentioned the inheritance, noticed her defensive tone when I pressed her about. Her lies were starting to crumble, and I was getting angrier by the minute. One evening, I decided I'd had enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. I needed answers, and I needed to hear her admit the truth. I sat her down in the living room, the tension thick between us. "Lisa," I said, voice steady but cold, "I know you've been hiding something. I've seen the bank records. The inheritance, the secret trips, everything. Tell me what's really going on." She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. "You're reading too much into it," she snapped. "It's none of your business. I've been trying to protect you from all this. You're so suspicious, it's like you don't trust me at all." Her words sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced her excuses, but I wasn't buying it anymore. "Protect me from what? Your lies, your secret money?" I shot back. "Look, Lisa, I found out about the inheritance. I know it's in its name, and I know you've been hiding it. Why? Are you planning to keep it all for yourself, or is there someone else involved?" My voice cracked with frustration. I'd never been this angry before, and it was like a switch had flipped. Her face twisted into a sneer. "You think I'm cheating, that I'm stealing from you?" she spat. "You're crazy. I've done nothing wrong. You're just paranoid. This is all a misunderstanding." But her voice lacked conviction. I could see the cracks in her facade. She was lying, and she knew it. I decided to push further. If that inheritance is so innocent, then why hide it? Why go through all the trouble of transferring it into her name? Are you planning to cut me out of everything, or is there someone else I should know about? I saw her eyes flicker, her composure slipping. That was when I realized she was panicking. In that moment, I felt a cold wave of betrayal. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about trust, about the woman I married and loved, the woman I'd thought I knew. I knew then that I had to find out the full truth, no matter what. Because if I didn't, I'd be living in a lie forever, and I refused to do that. I told her I needed a break to think things over. She insisted she was innocent, but I could see her desperation. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just uncovered a part of her that she'd been hiding for years. I was furious, hurt, and confused all at once. Something had to give, and I knew the next move was mine. Over the next few days, I knew I had to dig deeper. Sitting around waiting wasn't going to get me anywhere. I started making calls, digging into her family's background, trying to find any clues about that inheritance. Turns out, her cousin had been quietly negotiating to buy out her share of the family estate for months. I found out through some mutual contacts that was pushing hard to acquire the estate, and Lisa had been in secret talks with her behind my back. I was furious. Not only had Lisa lied about the inheritance, but she was actively working to cut me out of the family's assets. It was like I was married to someone I didn't even recognize anymore. I'd always thought she was ambitious, but this was something else. She was scheming, hiding, manipulating, all for money, I guess. One day I decided enough was enough. I needed to see her face to face and get some answers. I arranged to meet her in a quiet downtown. When she arrived, she looked nervous, like she was expecting something. I didn't waste time. I laid it all out, what I'd uncovered about her dealings with, the transfer of the inheritance, the secret negotiations. I told her I knew she'd been trying to buy out her cousin's share, and that she'd lied to my face about everything. Her reaction was a mix of anger and panic. "You don't understand," she snapped. "It's complicated. The estate is part of my family and I was just trying to protect it. Been pushing for months and I was just trying to secure our future. You think I'm some kind of gold digger, don't you?" Her voice cracked, but her eyes held a hint of desperation. I shook my head. "Protect it. Lisa, you're scheming behind my back trying to buy out her share without telling me. That's not protecting anything, that's betraying me. I trusted you and now I see you've been lying from the beginning. And all this money, where does it leave me? Out of the picture." I felt my voice rising. I was fed up with her lies and her manipulations. She looked away for a moment, then said quietly, "You don't get it. I've always wanted us to be secure. I thought I was doing what was best for us. I didn't want you to worry about money or family drama, but I guess I was wrong." That line, that excuse, it was so typical of her. She always said she was doing things for us, but her actions told a different story. I felt a mixture of betrayal and heartbreak. She'd been planning all this secretly for months. I realized she'd been lying about her intentions, her loyalty. She'd been using me as a cover, hiding her true ambitions. I didn't know whether to be more angry or more hurt. I'd trusted her with everything, and now I saw her for what she really was. Someone who would do anything to get what she wanted, even if it meant destroying our marriage. That day, I started to see the cracks in our relationship widening. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, not with all the secrets hanging over us. I had to decide whether to fight for her or walk away. But one thing was clear, nothing would be the same after this. The betrayal ran too deep, and I wasn't sure if I could ever forgive her. But I also knew I had to figure out what was best for me, no matter how painful it was. After that confrontation, I felt like I was walking on a tightrope. Every moment I spent thinking about Lisa, her schemes, and what I'd uncovered just made me more exhausted. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. My mind kept circling back to the money, to the estate, to her lies. I knew I had to act, but I wasn't sure what my next move should be. Part of me still wanted to believe maybe she'd come clean, that somehow we could fix this. But deep down, I knew better. Trust was shattered and I'd been played. I decided to hire a private investigator. I needed hard proof, something indisputable that would settle the questions in my mind once and for all. Over the next week, I watched her carefully. She was still acting normal, but I caught her sneaking around her phone, deleting messages, making secret calls. I managed to get a copy of her recent texts with. They were talking about the estate, about finalizing everything, cutting out the husband, and getting what's ours. Reading those texts made my stomach turn. She was planning to push through the buyout, no matter what I thought. She'd been lying to me for months, maybe even longer. This wasn't just about money, it was about control, about her trying to secure her future at my expense. I felt sick. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved, was now just a stranger, a schemer, a liar. That was when I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I couldn't let her keep manipulating me. I sat her down again, this time with all the evidence in hand. I laid it all out, the bank records, the texts, the shady dealings. I told her I knew everything and that I was done playing her game. I told her I was filing for divorce, that she'd lost my trust completely. Her reaction was a mix of fury and panic. "You're overreacting," she yelled. "You don't understand the full picture. I was just trying to secure our future. You're making this about money, but it's not like that. I love you." Her voice cracked, but it was obvious she was trying to manipulate her way out of it. She begged me to reconsider, said she'd stop everything if I just gave her a chance. But I couldn't. I'd been betrayed too many times. Her lies, her schemes, her manipulations, they'd all shown me who she really was. I told her I'd be going to a lawyer, that I was taking steps to protect my rights, and that I wanted nothing more to do with her secret plans. I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I loved her, but I couldn't stay with someone who'd betrayed me so completely. That night, I moved out of the house. I didn't want to be around her when she was in full panic mode. I knew this was the end of our marriage, but at least now I had clarity. I'd fought for my truth, and I was going to make sure I protected myself from further damage. The betrayal had cut deep, but I was determined to rebuild my life, without her lies, without her manipulations. Now I'm left with a lot of questions. How did I miss all the signs? Was I blind to her ambition? And most of all, how do I move on from this kind of betrayal? I know I'll never fully trust again, but I also know I have to find a way to heal. What kills me most is realizing the woman I thought I knew was just a facade, someone who'd do anything, say anything, to get what she wanted. That's the harsh truth I'm living with now. Looking back, I honestly don't know how I didn't see it coming sooner. Maybe I was too blind, too in love, or maybe I just didn't want to believe that the woman I shared my life with could betray me so completely. But now that it's all out in the open, I realize how naive I'd been. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild, and I don't think I'll ever look at her the same way again. The whole experience has left me battered, but I've also learned some tough lessons. First, never ignore the small signs, those little things that seem insignificant but are actually red flags. Second, never assume you know someone completely. People hide things, sometimes even the ones you love the most. And finally, I've learned that protecting myself is more important than holding on to something that's already fallen apart. I can't change her choices, but I can control my future. Since moving out, I've been focusing on myself. It's not easy. There are days when I feel angry, betrayed, and completely lost. But I remind myself that I deserve honesty and respect, and I won't settle for anything less. I've started therapy, trying to process everything and rebuild my confidence. It's a slow process, but I know I'll get through it. To anyone out there going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Get the evidence, confront honestly, and don't be afraid to walk away if you discover betrayal. No amount of money or status is worth sacrificing your peace of mind or your self-respect. Ultimately, I hope one day I can look back at this as a painful chapter that taught me to value myself more. I'll move forward, not because I forget what happened, but because I refuse to let it define me. Life goes on, and I believe I'll find happiness again. Maybe not with her, but somewhere, somehow. That's the truth of it. Trust is fragile, betrayal is brutal, but resilience is stronger. And I'm choosing to rebuild, step by step, into a future where honesty and integrity matter more than anything.